evening, all. Ira Epstein, and here we are with your metal market wrap-up. And this wrap-up is for the evening of Thursday. And we're at the 11th of January, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Take a look. You're up in the Brent, $1.32. You're up $1.32 in the WTI oil. Gold is up $16. You're up 27 cents in the silver. The U.S. and the U.K. together have struck the Houthis in Yemen. Anthony Blinken has done his tour. He got as much support as he could. He could not get all the support he wanted out of the European Union from the looks of things. So it appears that the U.S. and the UK have decided on their own to go in and strike. The afternoon before this took place, the head of the Houthis has said if the U.S. strikes, they will have basically HELL rain down on them. So we will see what their reaction to all this is. Remember, the Houthis fought for years with the Saudis, so they're used to war. This is not going to be a simple thing. I am not saying that our countries are going to put people on the ground and do that. I think we're sophisticated enough, much more so than Saudi Arabia, to take on this group if it turns into that. And because we don't have assets in the region other than our ships, it's a very different type of war. You know, the Saudis are basically neighbors, so it's very different. The Saudis, I'm sure, are sitting there tonight very upset, very worried that this will spill over back to them. Iran has decisions to make. Probably Iran grabbing today a ship in the Straits that had been sitting off Oman, that from everything I understand, it was an Iranian ship to begin with. It had been taken over by the U.S., captured, if you will, and oil taken off of it that part of the sanction wasn't supposed to go anywhere. And, you know, this Iran says that we stole their oil. Well, in that sense, we did. I think they're right on that. But now the question is, what do you do? Well, this is not a time to be a hero. You want to see how things develop over the next maybe weekend, this weekend right in front of us. Remember, you got Martin Luther King Day coming, and you got to figure out what this all means. This is an unknown. I thought it was coming. You heard me last night saying it's a good thing I'm not in the military because I'd have been very aggressive and gone right after this, just as we did. So now whatever the result is, the result is. But you couldn't let them just keep doing this unabated. You've got to do something to stop it, and then you got to find a way to stop it. Got it? You got to hit them back. You know they're going to hit you back, and then you got to find a way to get everything back under control. That's going to be important, with both sides realizing there's little to be gained by continuing this fight. We'll see what goes on. When we take a look at the market, gold backed off. Now, you know you had CPI reports today. I'll cover that in more detail in the financial market video. Suffice to say that I, just me, don't think that report is worth a March rate cut, all right? The market did. The market put another 4%. They added 4% maybe an hour and a half ago from this that I looked as to the probability going up to like 68%. I don't understand what they're saying, but obviously they're thinking that this report's an aberration and that the next two reports on CPI will show even further decline, giving the Fed reason to move. And yet you're seeing that the Fed members are not in agreement. Meister doesn't agree. The New York Fed president doesn't agree with that. They want to see this thing on deflation now, let's call it that, lock in, and not get a bump here, a bump there. These bumps can get nasty, and shelter costs aren't falling, but I'll leave that be until later. In the gold, you can see how the market's just sort of hanging right here. You can see that you're up 1680 as we're talking. There is no trend. You came down. If you take out the highs of today, which were Thursday, and you get back over this 2056 area, that could spark some fireworks in the market because you have an outside day down. If you take that out, you often make a move. Would it go just to the 18-day average and hang there, or would it make a move up to the upper Bollinger Band? That's the question you'd have to ask yourself. Right now, I predicted yesterday, and I'm predicting it again, the support in the market is the 200-day average in the Bollinger Band, 213.40. Oh, let's go back to today. Let's go back if I can't do it. Sorry about that. I did this chart in such a way I can't do it there. I might be able to do it on the next one. Well, let me go back a day. Yeah, it's going to. So let me show you what I mean by this. One here. Okay. So I was looking for these combinations to be the attack zone. You didn't quite get there. You missed it by $3, but I'm in the ballpark. I think you'd agree with me on that. And obviously, I don't know what happens now that basically the attacks have taken place, and we will see the retaliation now. The gold-silver ratio still favors gold over the silver market. Silver market got down, hit important support zone today of the Bollinger Band area, and that for me is enough. It can get a bounce here for no reason. Obviously, it has a reason. If you look at silver as being a market that might react to the U.S. attack of the Houthis, but that would be it. You could also embed. Got to wait and see. This is not a time to be a hero. This is a time in these markets. Hold back. Let's see the reactions. Copper market, I don't see what copper has at all to do with what the U.S. and the Houthis and the U.K. fight there. So I'm not buying into the argument that copper's up because of the war. I think it's just a bounce in the market away from that. Makes no sense there. And the platinum could be argued the same way. Now, platinum had a good piece of news. Nobody's talking about it, but they should. And palladium, this is good for. Hertz today said they're selling 20,000 of their electric vehicles. As much as they do a certain amount of rotation, they're not replacing them with electric vehicles. There's the rub. Why? The average American, I'm not talking China where there's a huge move to make everything electric cars. I'm talking America. When you go to rent a car, you don't even know where a charging station is. You're on vacation, you don't know that you want to drive. What if you have to drive 400 miles? Do you feel comfortable doing that? What has happened is the feedback to Hertz has become such that they're realizing they got a more expensive car. They got a car that people are uncomfortable with. It's neat to drive. It's great if you've ever been picked up in a cab in one. They're phenomenal to be picked up in. But there's more cost. America's just not there yet, and you're seeing this from it. But that means we're going to build more cars to replace those that a fleet like this is getting rid of, and that's 20,000. Here's the advantage to you. These cars are used. They're going at dirt cheap prices. Generally, rental cars can be beaten up. You know that. You rent a car, you don't treat it like your own. That's what most people do. But I've also been in rental cars that are wonderful. So I don't know how the pricing's going to go. I heard and read that some of the more beaten up cars were going for as little as $14,000, the Model 3s, I guess they are, with some mileage on them. How much mileage, I don't know. How beaten up, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to see the car. That includes the tax credit. And the ones that weren't so beaten up were about 20 grand. Well, that's a lot less, though. And that lets a lot of people in if they want to pick up one of these cars. You know, doing cosmetic work, if everything works electronically and so on, is one way to look at it. And then the cost of ownership until the battery goes, that's something else you got to consider. And that's something nobody's told me they figured out. You know, if my engine goes in my car, I can take it into my local mechanic and get it fixed. When you lose one of these electric batteries, you basically lost the car because of the cost of everything. Got to take that into account. In the dollar index, we have a pattern here of a higher high and lower low. You ended this little bounce, but you haven't gone anywhere. And you put it together and you got to ask yourself, what the heck do you do with all this? Because it's a lot thrown at us all of a sudden, and I welcome it. Why? I love when we get going into a new year, start looking for new trends, get everything out, get washouts done, and we're there. So now I'm looking for what can and can't be done in the markets. We're going to talk about this in large way on Tuesday. Remember, you have a Martin Luther King holiday, so when I come back with you on Tuesday, we have the webinar. Webinars at 12:30 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday. I think that's the 16th, if I'm correct. And I want you there. It's 20 minutes long. You can ask me the questions. I'm getting a bunch of them already, and I'm preparing charts that people want done. Getting a lot of technical questions, which are great. We got ETF questions, obviously, on Bitcoin and the like coming in, and we'll talk about that as well. What I think, where that's carrying these markets. So will 11 of them last? No, I can share that with you. Out of the 11, you're looking at probably 2/3 will be gone in 2 years. It won't make financial sense for them because they're all doing the same thing. If there were differences, I'd get it, and I could see each one having a niche, but they're all doing the exact same thing. That's too many. So the market will decide which ones last by volume going to certain ones. And by the way, the volume was monstrous in it today. That's a good thing. But a lot of people had like 25, $30 billion grayscale that they were moving into these already, that they were holding in other areas. So when you do it, they had to come into the market and buy that amount worth, and they did. So you're just moving things around, but there's plenty of other volume. You can call my staff. Read the emails I sent you. I sent them out again today. You can move your cursor up here. You see at the top here, you'll see an icon. Give it a click, a form will show. Fill out the form. You'll get from our computer system back your link to get into the Zoom chat room. You'll have your user ID and your password, and also a link that you can write me your questions with. Then I get them, I'll put them together, and we'll be ready to go on Tuesday. I'm Ira Epstein. I will talk to you all tomorrow. You have yourself a good evening.